And I want to get started by doing some horizontal thumbnails because I'm going to be doing a horizontal composition. And I'm drawing out my 4 edges. So I'm very conscious of where things begin and where they end. By the way, I will be taking breaks every now and then to stop drawing and look at the chat. So if you guys have questions, you have comments, put them in the chat. If I don't answer right away, it's just because I'm drawing and I can't do that at the same time. So please feel free to do that. Now, the first thumbnail I'm going to start with, let's do the one on the lower left at the top, because what I like about this one is this downward motion. Some of you guys who were here in yesterday's paint along stream, you heard me talk about how I really like identifying what it is about the image that I like. And I like this motion quite a bit. And the framing of the trees that are coming around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to emphasize the ones that I think give the space a little bit more structure, like that. And then there are these really cool steps. Actually, I took these photos in Utah, I think about a week ago, and we were climbing to the top, which is really cool, but it was so muddy. And we were not, like, we had no idea it was going to be that muddy. And it was so muddy that it was difficult to walk. And so it was very, very wet in a way that we just were not prepared for. There's always a surprise whenever you're going around in Utah. But one of the reasons I feel less frustrated by working from photos is because I generally have been to these places. And so that does help me a little bit. And I'm going to do a little bit of value just because this is so different than the paint along from yesterday, where things were very concrete and very clear. This is a lot more impressionistic. Things are looser. And so I don't feel like the approach I did yesterday with the thumbnails is helpful. And so you guys will find that depending on the subject matter you're doing, you may need to really shift your technique as far as thumbnails go. Okay, so there's one. Let me do another one down here. So I just did that one photo. I didn't really mix that with anything else. What I do want to do, let's try this. Let's do the one in the lower left-hand corner that's in the middle. And this one's a little bit more vertical, but what I think I might do, let's put the brick path over here on the left, because I love how crooked this is. You see how weird that, I don't know, like this one here at the top, the steps going down, they're less wonky, but that's sort of why I like this one more, because it is crooked and funky and strange. And I do think the depth is a little bit easier to see. So I'm going to structure this thumbnail with this path. And I think what I'm going to do is take the thumbnail in the upper right, and I'm going to stick it here. Like, you see this like really dark, like this is a creepy place. This is not a place you want to go. This is sort of like, oh, what is that? The fire swamp in The Princess Bride. I was just trying to think about some deadly place with the RUSs, rodents of unusual size. So I was thinking maybe this is on the way to the fire swamp. Oh, that makes me really want to watch that movie again. Tell me in the chat, how many of you guys can recite Princess Bride from beginning to end? I probably could do the whole Battle of Wits. Oh my God, the number of times I've watched that movie is a little bit insane. It's such a good movie though. Okay, so I took, this top part is from one photo and this lower part is from another. And let me put something here on the right that is from another one. I'm just clicking through the photos. I don't know if I want to put that fence. You know what? I'm going to take this side. I'm going to take from the photo on the left at the top. So I'll take, like, I sort of like these dark branches, the same branches that you guys see up here, but I'm just adding them to this other section. Because a lot of people ask me, how do you get your reference photos and your drawing to feel more original? And really the surefire way to do that, honestly, is to use multiple photos. If you guys stick to one photo, it's much harder to do because you end up really copying the photo. And especially like composition wise, that's not helpful either. Yeah, like this is pretty dark. So I'm going to fill this whole section in pretty like a middle gray. And I think I am going to add the snow. Yeah, this was such a hard walk, you guys. Like when we were going up, we had to be so careful about where we put our foot because you could slip so easily and you would just roll down. It was really scary. I mean, not like in a dangerous way, but I don't remember having to look that hard for particular spots that we're not going to let you slip. I mean, it was crazy. I'm going to go back to the original photo, the one in the lower left in the middle, and I'm going to accentuate these bricks that are down here. I like how the ones on the bottom are like really large. And then this one's a little crooked. And I'm just going to put a couple lines here so you can see how that's moving upwards like that. And actually, I think I'm going to put in, see this like hay stuff? It's kind of fun. Although I'm leaving out the fence. I'm not so sure I'm going to keep the fence. I don't know. Fence might be sort of fun. Okay. We have a question from Cerulean who says, I need to figure out, is using a thumbnail as a value study, how does that work? When should you use it? And when should you do a color thumbnail? Well, I think because the shapes are not very well defined, like yesterday, I painted an eggplant and the eggplant was so defined, like it was clearly like, here's the eggplant, here's the cloth. This does not have such particularly defined shapes. So for me, I'm breaking down this landscape as a series of areas of value. So for example, this side I'm doing right now is like middle gray, and then this up here is like dark. So what I'm trying to do is divide up the space and to say to myself, okay, this is really dark. This is like a middle gray, and then maybe I'll let this area be a little bit brighter, although I sort of like the way that hay is very bright. I mean, it's up to you. I don't think that there is any particular rule of when you should do value or when you should not. I do think if your final media is going to be color, then definitely I would recommend doing that. If I had a lot of time, I probably would do both. I probably would do a value study and then follow up with a color study. I mean, yesterday, you guys probably thought I was crazy for doing thumbnails for so long, but actually that was a little sampling of what I would typically do, because typically I would spend way longer. I probably would spend all day just doing thumbnails, like especially if it's a painting that I know I really want to invest time on this. So yeah, it's definitely something that takes a little while. Karen is saying, can I buy these thumbnails? They're amazing. Well, we do have a section on my Etsy shop that has artwork that we create in the live streams. The link is in the video description below. I didn't think anybody would want the thumbnails, but if you guys want, I can put them in the shop because all of the purchases go back to fund Art Prof, which is very, very helpful. Yes, I know Blue Wolf Spirit. Everything to me is Tartarus and the underworld. I can't help it. I just tend to see things that way. I don't know. I think some of it has to do with your eye. Because actually, to me, the process of these drawings that I'm going to do today, it actually begins with me taking the photos, because I tend to search for very particular things when I'm out taking photos. And if it were somebody else taking the photos, they probably would be looking for other things. So I think that the process of taking your own reference photos, that's an art form in itself. So don't tell yourself that that does not matter, because it absolutely does. Neil says, when working for multiple reference photos, how can I make sure that the lighting remains consistent? Well, it depends, because if you guys look at this landscape, you'll see it's a very overcast situation. There are not a lot of really well-defined cast shadows, so that's going to help me. And also, if you use reference photos that are shot on the same day in the same scene, that's also helpful. Like if I went on a super sunny day and I tried to combine that photo with these, that would not work out very well. So I definitely think that's another argument for taking your own photos, so you can really control what's going on. And so what you want to be doing with the thumbnails is really be a control freak. Okay, just do what I do, which is like, I must control and dominate the world, at least in terms of my artwork. Mayahika says, just initial sketches can take so long to do. They can, however, you have to remind yourself that the time you put here saves you time later on. It doesn't feel that way, because when you're doing these, you sort of end up thinking, oh my God, it's taking forever. But you're planning things out, which I think is a lot better. Okay, let's do some more. I'm trying to think about another way I could combine these. So I don't know, like I really, really like the one in the upper right-hand corner. Let's try this. I'm going to do two. So let's put the fire swamp up here. At least the fire swamp is somewhat humorous. It's a totally Tartarus. I'm going to have two, actually. Yeah, well, let's do that. Let's just like repeat this little path. And this time I am going to use the path that's in this photo like that. I do like this hay that's coming up here on the right. And actually here, this is a good way to look at the direction of the hay. This is so similar. For those of you guys who saw the chicken stream, where I was drawing the hay around the chickens, it's also really similar to when I was drawing the hair. Like, notice that I'm showing the upward motion of the hay. So something like that, noticing those pockets of direction is very, very helpful. Yeah, that's really fun. I feel better today drawing. You know why? Because I spent all day painting, and so now I'm like much more in shape, which is kind of nice. And let's put two paths. So I'm going to put another path down here. It's going to be a small one. And now I'm going to draw from the one on the lower left in the middle. Lower left in the middle. So let's do the path. This is going to be a smaller path that comes up here. And I'm going to make these trees that are here on the side, I'm going to turn them into like bushes. They're not going to be as big. That's another thing you guys can do with your thumbnails, is play with scale. So something like this, which in reality is actually the same size as this, I'm making it feel smaller. And you guys saw me do that yesterday. I mean, we had those like mammoth grapes, which was funny. I don't know. I was not planning on that, but it was cool. And I'm not gonna, I don't know. I don't really like those fences. I think they're a little bit, I mean, they were pretty to look at. I'm just not so sure that I want them here right now. So that's sort of weird. I don't think I like that. That feels a little bit, looks too much like a collage. I don't think that looks very good. Okay, let's do another one. So let me move my paper here so you guys can see a little bit better. And let's think about something really different. For example, I'm just looking right now. I'm not drawing, but the looking is very important. Let's do the photo in the lower left. because this one, this like big thing of hay. Okay, this big thing of hay that I'm drawing right now, this was shot in another spot. I had some family members who were stargazing. Do you guys remember? I can't remember. It was something about Jupiter. It was like the first time in 100 years that Jupiter did something. I can't remember what it was, but it was in the news. And they were there, my family members, looking for that stuff, which was really fun. I mean, mostly it was just cold, but ooh, I kind of like this because you know what this is doing right now? This is creating, for me, a sense of foreground because it's so big and there's really nice contrast back here. So you see how this hay, let's just make this like black because it is like that in the photo actually. Ooh, I kind of like that as foreshortening. And actually, we do have a video about atmospheric perspective, which I'm definitely going to tap into today. So if you guys haven't seen this video, this would be a really good reference for understanding how that works. And I'm going to put the one in the upper right in this one as well. So what if we put this fire swamp? Let's just call this a fire swamp. That's what it is. And let's make the path go like this so that it's like behind this hay. And then maybe I could have some of these trees in the back fade into the darkness. So, okay, the upper left is going to be like really dark. And then I'll have it like gradate like that. That's kind of fun. Although I feel like this is too big. I might do another one where maybe I shift it up a little bit because I do really like the fire swamp. The fire swamp is awesome. And so I feel like it's a little bit too minimal right now. Yeah, I think I might do another version of this, but change the scale of what's going on. Because that's sort of fun. Okay, I'm going to just number these so that way when we come back, you guys can help me decide which one you think I should do. Okay, let's do another one. And I'm going to do sort of like a variation of number 2. I'm just going to shift up the scale a little bit so things are very different. Okay, let's come over here. I'm close. I'm thinking that might be the one that I want. I'm not sure. But that's sort of a fun thing to do, you guys, is to create variations on the theme when you're making a thumbnail so that you're not necessarily like doing a brand new thumbnail for everything. So I'm going to put this thumbnail down here just as a reminder of what it is I want to do. So this time, actually, I'm going to start on the right. Start with the fire swamp. I love the RUSs. Like, it's so fake. It's just great. Let's see. I heard they were trying to make a remake. I'm like, that's wrong. Okay, I know you guys want to remake Blade Runner and Total Recall, and like those are wrong too. But it's not as wrong as somebody trying to remake The Princess Bride, because that just makes me upset. That's not cool. Okay, and then the path. Although, oh, you know what I might do? Okay, let's sketch up. This is the path, right? It's coming out of the fire swamp, but I really like the steps that are in the photo on the lower left in the middle. So I might add these like brick steps, in which case I'll be combining 3 photos, which is really nice. Yeah, tell me in the chat, who's drawing along? Are you using the same photos that I'm using? Or are you just working from the landscape album? Because there's a lot in the landscape album. So it's not like, you don't have to use the same photos as me. In fact, it's probably more fun for you guys to have more selection. So don't feel at all like you need to use the same photos as me, because there's a lot of options there as far as what you guys can do. And really, it is more fun to pick your own, because then you really see what you're attracted to. This is just what I like. What I like may not be what you guys like. Okay, so we have that section. And let me go back to that patch of grass that's in the lower left, because it's got a weird glow, doesn't it? It looks like it's like glow-in-the-dark hay, which is sort of fun. You know what? I think I need to make this a little bit bigger. Yeah, let's pull this out. I don't feel like I have enough space. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to put the hay a little bit lower than I thought because it was too big in the other one. Yeah, so let's do that. And then in theory, this lower section will have more detail to pull it forward and, again, to play with atmospheric perspective. And then let's do like a big bit of black over here to make the hay really stick out. And then I suppose I'll just have this section transition from the hay stuff into the darkness. So this is just going to be like one big gradient. And that's how I'll blend together those two landscapes. Okay, I do want, there are these like little bushes down here. Maybe I'll put those in. Those might help me as well, just to separate some of the hay like that. So the hay sort of comes in front. Okay, let's make this sketch number 5. And for the sake of time, I'm going to stop thumbnails right now, so that way you guys can take a look at what I have. Okay, so help me decide. This is what we've got. We've got number 1, and I'm going to do, again, process of elimination, because I don't know, for some reason it's easier that way. I don't like this one because obviously I just copied the photo, which is not very interesting, so we're not going to do number 1. Number 2, I do like number 2. I'll tell you, I don't like number 4 because I feel like I just put 2 photos side by side and that's boring. So I'm not going to do number 4. I don't mind number 3, but it's a little bit boring depth-wise. Like it's not very, like the space is just here and back here. There's sort of like 2 spaces. It's okay, but I'm not thrilled about it. Let's get rid of 3. I think it's between 2 and number 5. I mean, these are basically variations on each other. And you know something? I didn't like number 2 when I did it, but now I sort of like it. Because I think I like that the hay is gigantic and that the fire swamp is so small. This one, the fire swamp and the hay, that they're a little bit too similar in scale. And I feel like that's a little bit too predictable. I think I like number 2. Yeah, tell me in the chat, you guys, which ones you like better. Neil says number 5. Seven Angelic says number 4. And Cerulean says whichever involves the most combining. That's what I'm still trying to get. Well, 2 and number 5 for sure. Attagirl says number 3 could have more contrast. Oh yeah, I mean, all of these sketches definitely could be better. Oh, a lot of people like number 2. Yeah, okay. Let's go with number 2. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to work on it just a little bit more because I do want it to be a little bit stronger in terms of just being a more solid sketch. Right now, it doesn't feel like a very solid sketch because it's just so fast. And I do want to work out more of the direction of the hay because that's so important. I mean, honestly, you guys, this is really like drawing hair. It's so similar in terms of you don't want to draw every single grass, but you want to show the movement. It's all related. A lot of people think, oh, there's one way to draw hair. You draw hair this way. You draw landscape this way. And sure, there are some things that you consider for all of that. But ultimately, it all comes down to the same fundamentals. Regardless of whether I'm drawing hay or hair or human figure, it's about the big shapes. It's about seeing the value. It's about seeing the relationships. None of that changes. It does not matter what you are drawing, actually, in the end. Okay. Let me get back in here. We're doing the photo that's in my upper left. Let me see. It might be kind of nice to get, I sort of feel like now I want to do a vertical composition, but the thing is I'm not set up for that right now. So let's just see. I might extend this up a little bit. Yeah, let's do that. Let's extend this up, which also means I got to extend over to the left, because I just feel like if I crop it here, I'm going to miss out on these creepy trees. These trees are great. And I want to put in more of those trees. Yeah, if I do that, that'll help. Okay, so let's add in more at the top. So this is why it's good to go back and revisit the thumbnail. Even though this is the one that I want to do, you can start to make those decisions and get a clearer idea of what you want to do. Like that. Okay, and then I think I'm going to stick with this path. I might want to make it a little bit more straight. I think it's coming down a little bit much. So that might be something I just fix later on, which is fine. Yeah, that feels a lot better. Okay, let's go with that. Okay, so we're going to do, is it number 2? Yeah, number 2. All right, and remember, I'm going to keep looking at thumbnail, reference photo, and drawing. It's just like yesterday, where you don't put one away, you keep it out and available so you continue to reference things. Okay. What I'm going to do now is give me 1 second, and I want you guys to think about my chicken tutorial while I go through and I set up some of the photos, because what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take away the photos that I'm not using, so they're not a big distraction, and move the other one so you can see both of them at the same time. Okay, let's put away the chickens. And now we're going to get started with the final piece. And let me just adjust the darkness because my webcam looks at the black paper in a very different way. And then I'll adjust that as we go along. Okay, so we're looking at number 2. I think what I want to just do is block out the relationships. And this is where it does get a little bit tricky, because I really do have to look at both photos simultaneously. So I would say if you guys can, pull up all the photos that you have. And I really got, see, I'm trying to think about, I guess this is about halfway. It goes down like that. Okay, so let's just, I'm using yellow ochre right now. And I like yellow ochre because it's bright, but not too bright. Actually, let me zoom out all the way. There, that's better. Okay, so you guys can see here, I've got the thumbnail on the right-hand side. And I'm just blocking in the contour of what's happening with this hay. So I guess to answer Neil's question earlier about multiple light sources, see, there's this weird glowy light, and I'm not going to be after anything that's that accurate in terms of lighting. So I'm not that worried about it right now. Trying to stay very loose, but I am trying to really show the direction, like these lines down here that are very diagonal and they're pushing down. So it's the direction of things. The directions and a little bit of the contour. I'm not sure about these bushes. I might take those out because that will give me a little more space to do what's going on over here. Let's go to the other photo. And I want to have enough space for those creepy trees. So I think maybe Fire Swamp starts here. Let's just approximate. That's the door to the Fire Swamp. And the path is going to come down this way. And I'm looking, see this tree on the upper left? That's a nice landmark. And there's another one up here. So part of this is learning to find the anchors in the composition. Like, what are the bigger shapes that really teach you which direction you want to go in? So the hay up here goes up and down, but then it slowly moves downwards. And it sort of like folds into the road. But then the road has this flat section here. And then this hay on the right really goes up. This is a very different motion than what's going on. And I guess what I'll do on this side is I'll just continue more of the hay. And I guess there's another tree back there. I'll just keep going, and then I'll remember that this whole upper left-hand corner is just going to be really, really dark. Okay, so that's a pretty good beginning, just getting things sketched out. Let me go into the chat and see what people are talking about. JK says, I'm drawing along, but I find the landscapes kind of overwhelming. There's so many small details. Seeing shapes is difficult. That's true. I think it's like hair. You look at it, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much to look at. But that's why in my landscape, everybody see this path? This path is really clear. So that's what I consider to be an anchor for what I'm drawing. And then I would say this dark path, and then this tree, and then this tree. So it's a matter of picking particular landmarks in the landscape and really reducing it to the most simple shapes. That's the most difficult thing, because I think anybody can see details, but a lot of people can't see past the details and see the structure. Like if you think about an eyeball, okay? A lot of people, when they're drawing an eye, they will look at it and say, oh, eyelashes, okay? Because eyelashes are very clear, they're glamorous, and everybody likes them. But if you think about an eye, the eye is not eyelashes. The eye is the eyeball. It's the way the upper eyelid folds over. It's the structure in between that. And that's the type of thing. It's not that it's invisible. It's just not that clear. And so with landscape, you got to work hard to subdivide. Okay, so if I subdivide this, this is one pocket of hay. And then see these diagonals? That's another zone. And so that's what you'll hear me talk about with landscape is zones. Okay, so let me explain to you, let me break down how the zones work. Okay, the hay in the front, this is the foreground. That is one zone of space. Fire swamp path on the right-hand side, that is another zone. These are two separate spaces. This one's closer to me. This one pushes back. And then this side, which is going to be really, really dark, chiaroscuro, Caravaggio wannabe type of thing, that's another zone. Okay, so zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. That's how you have to subdivide the space, because if you just look at it and you just see hay, that's really, really confusing. Okay. Rosa is asking, is it usual that you're using oil pastels on a dark ground? I typically do. I don't usually like using white paper because the white paper has a grain that you can see through the oil pastels. And I just find that you have to put down an obscene amount of oil pastels to get rid of that white grain. The black just does the work for you. I mean, honestly, I was going to use some gray paper today, but I didn't have it. So I'm just sticking with black for now. But maybe on the next stream or something, I'll actually remember to go to the art store and do that. W315 says, I need to train myself to locate and not lose track of anchors. How do I do that, though? Well, some of it is pulling them out. So, for example, if I want to pull out this tree, which I consider to be an anchor, does everybody see it? It's more crisp. It's more graphic. It's in the photo on the top on the lower left. So let me show you guys how to pull out these anchors. I'm just going to make it more pronounced. This one back here is not quite as pronounced, but I'm going to put it in there anyway. So it's a matter of finding the anchors and then putting them in sooner rather than later. You can't do the small stuff first. You got to go for the big stuff. Okay, so does everybody see 1, 2, 3? Those are my 3 anchors. Those are the things that are going to hold together all the stuff in between. I mean, sure, there's things in the middle, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. I will get to it later. And then for the middle part of the path, I'm going to take, actually, I'm going to use like a lightish blue, just because I can go over it later on. But for this, I'm just going to take the side and get this like really well blocked in like that. Okay, so there are 4 ankles. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 anchors, putting that together. Okay, now let's go to the big thing of hey, which is on the left-hand side. And thank goodness it's so bright because it's going to help me a lot. Let me find my white. Oh, this is the Sennelier. I don't want to use that for this. I want to use the Caran d'Ache. Ooh, is this? Yuck, that's burnt sienna. I thought that was white. Okay, I'm at that point with my oil pastels where just, everything looks the same because they're all dirty and full of color, but that's inevitable. You can't really do anything about that. So I'm looking at this like weird glowy light, and there's less of it over here. So see, I pressed harder on this side, and I'll press even harder here because this is where it's like really bright, and build it up. Here, I'm going to put a couple little strokes just to remind myself. I might go in and fix things later. And I'm going to do a passive white here only because the yellow is so transparent that I need a little foundation of white to make that happen. And then look at this, these little trails. Because here's the thing, you guys. I think it's better for you to make the anchors too clear than not clear enough. Because you can always fuzz this later. Like that's not going to be difficult. But finding these anchor points is really, really helpful. And actually, let me put this path so it really is like hugging the hay. Where did I put my white? Ugh, it's just like blending in with everything. Oh, that's yellow. Sheesh. Can't tell what color is what anymore. Let's really brighten this up because I think this will establish what is going to be in the foreground. So you guys can really see like foreground right in front. Really get that clear and going like that. This is tricky, you guys. I think in some ways, what I'm doing today is harder than yesterday with the still life. This is much less straightforward. There are no clear answers. And really, I'm asking you to invent. That's why people don't want to do this. Like, it'd be so much easier if I just took one photo and just copied it, right? Then you don't have to think. Then you just copy it. It's like not a big deal, right? Okay, let me go back. And I'm going to work this section. So let me grab maybe just some yellow ochre. So I get just mapping out the color back here. Again, this is like another patch. So you see how this gets divided? The yellow ochre is very much behind this glow-in-the-dark hay. Oh, crap. I think I have... Oh, it's the board that I'm on. You know what I got to do? I got to grab some paper and put this underneath because it's totally making a line for my drawing. Just put that underneath. Winsor Newton watercolor paper, making a line in my drawing. Okay, that's a lot better. All right, so this is that like, oh, now I have that. Are you kidding? Shoot, I got to grab some black paper. Give me 1 second. While I go get the paper, how about you guys contemplate landscape watercolor painting in Utah? All right, let me grab some sheets of black, and hopefully this will make me lose that little bit of stuff. Okay, I'm back. Yellow ochre. Where are you? Is that yellow ochre? Okay, I think it is. Let's just try that. Okay, so here's my yellow ochre hay. And what will really help is when I start getting into value. The value will help me organize better what's going on with the landscape. This is really similar to what Jordan and Kat were doing the other day with Procreate and the landscape. But the landscape I'm doing is a lot fuzzier. It's not as concrete because they were doing, like Kat did a mushroom landscape and Jordan had a really clear cut Utah red rock type of landscape. Okay, so even here, everybody see that gradient? So it's dark going into there. And then let me move to the right. I'm just going to block in this whole area. It's way too dark. I mean, it definitely needs more work. But at the very least, that gets me going. And I'm trying to figure out if I should put the sky back there. Might be better. I'm going to leave the sky out because I feel like that's going to pop too much. And this, I want to go dark, like deep dark into the distance. So let's just do that. I think that might be better. All right, that's just the beginning. And honestly, you guys, I am not a landscape expert. Like, I think there are probably a lot of people who can do this better than me, but I can just walk you through the beginning part of it. And then if you want to get more fancy later on, that's absolutely an option. And I think I need to bring out the road back here. It's too blue. I mean, that's okay. Like, I think it's better to make things too bright. It's not difficult to tone things down, but it is sometimes hard, especially with oil pastel where you're layering things on top. It is harder to make it brighter. It's not saying you can't. It's just not as easy. That's all. All right, and I'm going to leave out the snow. Does everybody see that little patch of snow back there? I'm just not going to do it. I don't think it's necessary. So a lot of this, it's not just how you organize the space, but it's also what do you pick and choose? Like maybe there's some part of the landscape that's in there, like that little patch of snow. You don't like it, don't draw it. Like, nobody says that these things have to be in there. They're in there if you want them to be in there. That's fine. So this whole like faithfulness to your photo, get rid of that, you guys. It's not necessary. Like, cheat, okay? Be an adulterer to your reference photo. Just cheat all you want. You'll get better results. in the context of a reference photo, I'm not talking about real life. All right, so that starts to bring a little bit more definition. And I should peel this. When you guys are using oil pastels, you should peel everything because I just find if I only draw with the tip, it's pretty boring. So if I peel it and I can draw with the side, it just makes your marks, especially for landscape, a lot more interesting. And you know something? I am going to put black pastel back there. I mean, even though it's black paper, it's not the same thing as when you actually put the pastel down. So let's just make the fire swamp more clear so we really know exactly where it is. I'm having fun, you guys. It just feels so good to draw. Like this was sort of a crummy week. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because I just had to do a lot of like really boring things. And the thing is, they were like boring things that are very important, but super boring to do. You guys know what I'm talking about? So my example of super boring things that are actually critical is redoing YouTube thumbnails. It's like, oh my God, are you serious? I have to spend all this time making these. But the thing is, like, a lot of the YouTube people I talk to, they say the thumbnail is everything. They say that if you have a bad thumbnail, nobody's going to click on your video, and that if you have the best video in the world, it doesn't matter if you have a crappy thumbnail, nobody clicks on it. And so I've been going back and fixing old thumbnails because I didn't know as much before what was going to look good. And it's like, oh my God, thumbnails are my life now. Like, they should have told me in art school, one day you will spend a whole week making YouTube thumbnails. That will be your life. Because this is the fun stuff, doing the tutorials and talking to you guys. But oh wow, there's a lot behind the scenes that is just boring, but necessary. I'm not complaining because I know it's part of the gig. But this was just one of those weeks where, oh my God, everything was just so boring. Although I will take boring over dramatic. Like dramatic is not really what I need in my life. I like my life to be really boring. I don't need to lock my partner in a castle like Mr. Rochester and Jane Eyre. I really like what Ruan says. I love cheating when creating art. You know something? My former professor, Tony Janello, he didn't say this to me. He said it to Kat Wong. It's not good advice, but I kind of love it. He said, if you can cheat, then cheat. I was like, you know, you're a college professor. You're not really supposed to be telling people that. Adagirl says, love it when you reference old videos in the streams. Yeah, I mean, guys, we have over 650 videos, which is insane. And that doesn't even count, I think there's at least 100 videos that we unlisted because they just were bad. And so we probably have made over 750 at this point. And Seven Angelic says, I'm struggling to compose the bits together too. I would say if you're having a hard time with that, that's probably a signal that you need to do more thumbnails. I did them really fast. Like I said, if I had more time, I would probably spend a few hours on them, but it's fine to do that because if you guys jump to this stage and you still feel a little shaky about it, that's not good. That's going to mean that you're going to have to do a lot of backtracking and fixing stuff that honestly at the thumbnail sketch stage is easy to fix. I feel like I like my thumbnails better. You guys ever do that? Like you look at, you're like, whoa, these look so much better than the finished piece. I mean, obviously I'm still working on it, but sometimes there's something, the immediacy and the freshness of a thumbnail can be really nice. And that happened to me a lot when I was teaching at RISD, where people would bring in their thumbnails, they'd bring in their finished piece, and I'd be like, guess what? Your thumbnails are better. That's extremely common. Rosa is saying, I guess you have to train your eye and find out what jumps into your view to get the anchors. So much of this is looking at the photo, examining it, asking yourself, what do I like about this? What am I attracted to? What I'm attracted to is not going to be what you guys are attracted to. I mean, sure, you can follow the same composition that I'm doing. I mean, if that helps you, definitely. But ultimately, if you guys are doing this on your own, it really should be your thing. It should be your decisions. Kira saying, have you ever worked with ink and bleach? I have not. I've seen people do that before, and it looks like a lot of fun, but it's something I've not had the chance to do. And bleach just smells so bad. I don't know that I really want to be doing that at all. Okay. Cerulean is saying there's pretty much no technical teaching at the university. We only explore concepts. I think it's common for any particular class to lean in one direction. And it's not very common to find a class that really addresses both at the same time. I definitely had classes at RISD that were just pure technique, which honestly, sometimes I needed that. Sometimes I was more than happy to just focus on technique. I had other ones that it was pure concept. They did not care about your technique, but I needed that too. And so I think the important thing is that you guys fluctuate between the two, that you're doing both. Because you guys have probably heard people say, oh, well, I'm not ready to think about concepts or what my work is about. And I got to get better at my drawing skills, my anatomy skills before I do that. And I don't think that's a good idea. If you guys saw earlier, I think last week, Deepti and I did a stream on a curriculum for self-taught artists. And that's something that we emphasize, which is that even if you have very, very little experience, you should still learn how to do thumbnails and learn how to brainstorm. Those are all important things to be doing regardless of your experience. Dylan is asking, you ever look back at your cocktails you made with colored pencils, your crayon self-portrait? I think that's really good or that's awful. Also, did you throw them away because those are awesome? Those I kept, I think they're in the Etsy shop, the cocktail drawings. And that link is in the video description below if you guys want to check that out. And I never look back at the work and think it's amazing. I rarely do. I probably have a few pieces that I feel are pretty good, but I don't do that. 9 times out of 10, I go, oh, I should have done this. And this bothers me. I mean, I think a lot of us do. Like, how often, tell me in the chat, how many of you guys look back at your past work and go, I'm awesome. Like, I slam dunk. I don't think that very often. Most of the time, I'm seeing all the problems. That's just what it is. Zarin is saying, is there a difference between chalk pastel and oil pastels? Absolutely. These are greasy. You can smudge them. They're sticky. Your hands get gross. But chalk pastels are very soft and powdery. And so they're almost like colored charcoal. They don't have the same quality, but they're very powdery and they get all over the place. And Isrot says, how do you work in small areas with oil pastel? Well, one thing you can do to help that is if you draw bigger, that will make it easier for you to do details. But honestly, I'm not big into details. It depends. I mean, if it's really important to you to do details, I would just say don't work with oil pastels. You probably would be better off with colored pencil or something that really has the capacity to do that, because oil pastel to me is so painterly, it's so blunt, it's just not great for doing little details. This is a good comment from Sheldon. Usually only takes me about a week to dislike my previous work. What I try to do, Sheldon, is I put it away. I put it in a portfolio where I can't see it, because you guys ever like babysit your artwork? Like, I did that with the water mixable painting that I did. It was just sitting on my desk, and that was not a good idea. I should have put it away, but I was looking at it throughout the week, and I think that was a mistake. I think I did not get the freshness in my eyes that I was really looking for. Attagirl says, what about regular crayons? Those you probably can get more detail with, only because they're just not as messy, and you can get a sharper line with crayons. I would just say try them all out and see what's a better fit for you. It just really, really depends. For example, Emil is saying, I feel like oil pastels almost feel like painting. Absolutely. This to me, this is so much closer to painting than drawing. And of course, it depends on your definition of drawing and painting. Everybody has a different definition, but I do feel that this is closer to the mindset of painting. But it is limited in that in oil painting, you really can do a crazy amount of detail if you want. Okay, let's get back into this and let's see. It's going to be a lot of squinting, guys. A lot of squinting to really see what the relationships are like. And I think I need to go, I want to get this gradient better, because I feel right now there's this like divide going down the middle, and I don't like that. So I suspect if I work on the upper left-hand corner, that might be helpful. You know, I might put in these bushes. Those actually might be a nice transition from the hay. Yeah, I'm going to put them in. They're not going to be that big, but they might be like a nice halfway point between glow-in-the-dark hay. It seems like something a scientist would invent. Like, buy this hay, it glows in the dark at night. It would be like a cool Christmas decoration or something. And maybe that means I should put in a little bit of purple back here to distinguish these bushes. Like that. Yeah, I think I like that better. That subdivides that section, makes it a little bit less mushy. It's going to be a lot of squinting, guys. I feel like half the stream is me squinting. Sorry, I know that's not that exciting. But it's real. I promise it's real. It's the real process. Oh, and you know what else, you guys? If you look at the photo of the hay in the lower left-hand corner on my screen, do you guys see there's like a little bit of blue? That's like really pretty. I think I'm going to add that in. So let's get this like royal blue color. And by the way, the colors are off. See this? I know it looks blue on your screen, but for me, it looks purple. And I'll show you guys later in the Discord what the true accurate color is. It's just with live streaming, you just can't get the color accuracy you would get it compared to like our studio tutorials that we shoot on DSLR cameras, just a lot easier. Okay, so this blue, it's really dark. It's barely there. You guys may not be able to see it that well, but I promise it's there. Yeah, I think I'm going to work. It's not doing this, but here I'm going to start inventing. I'm going to push some of this blue back here so it moves across like that. I was just thinking, I feel like what I want to do today is channel Anselm Kiefer. If you guys don't know Anselm Kiefer, check him out. And actually, let me put his name in the chat. His name is a little bit hard to spell. Anselm Kiefer. I love the textures that he puts into his work. So if you guys Google him, it might give you some ideas for how to work some of the textures in here. Yeah, this is helping. This transition from the blue over into this. It's a lot of layering. So what I'm putting down right now, it's way too dark. It's not what I want to be doing eventually, but it's building towards that motion. And I want these bushes got a little bit. Oh, there's a bush behind it. Okay, so I got to make this one darker. And I don't like that. I think, do I want to add another bush there? I think maybe another one here. Like that. Maybe this is when the senneliers would come in handy because I do want to go over a lot of things, but who knows? I don't know. They were really sticky, those senneliers. Not really my favorite thing, but they came in handy for sure. I mean, they were helpful. All right. I think we got to come back to this front area because definitely have not done enough work there. And I would like to, where is this white? I think that's gray. I need white. My white is like gone. I think I need to go buy like, I remember when I taught elementary school, you could buy like a box of white. That's what I need. Okay, so see here, even though this is like a big mound of white, I'm constructing it out of marks. I don't know why. Like I just, between the chickens and this, I'm drawing a lot of hay this week, which is sort of fun. It's not typical for me to do this because I'm not really a landscape person. That's another thing that's fun about the tutorials is I end up doing a lot of things I normally do not do. And I sort of like that. There is a freedom to doing work that is not in your area of expertise. I think it loosens you up. It changes your expectations. You don't tell yourself it has to look good. You just say, I'm playing around, I'm experimenting. And sometimes that's all you need. Don't need more than that. Okay, so let's start to build up. I think this area in the front, I might keep it pretty minimal. I might not actually do that much. I might just put like little thin specks. So that's another thing you guys can play with the oil pastel is density. So here I'm gonna like build, make it really, really thick. And then in the lower section, I'm not gonna do that. And actually, you know who did that a lot? Edward Hopper. Tell me in the chat, who's seen an Edward Hopper painting in real life? Because if you see them in real life, what you will notice is that the whites in an Edward Hopper painting, they're dense. They're thick, thick paint. And it's not the same thing as his shadows, which are very thin. They're almost glazes in a way. Very different scenario. I might do some baby oil down here. Let's just do a little bit of that. So just put a little bit. I don't want to use too much. The baby oil really, oh crap, now it's all over my fingers. Let's get some of this shot towel to wipe some of that off. Okay. I'm going to blend it a little bit, and then I'm going to go over it again. Because actually, the other tutorials I didn't really use the baby oil much, but I feel like in here it might help push some of these sections, or it could make a big mess. Let's just see. Let's see which one it does. So on this side, I think I am going to bring in some of the yellows. Just, oh, that's gross. That's a gross yellow. Maybe one that's more orangey would be better. Let's see. That's too bright. So maybe if I go back in with some yellow ochre, that should help me as well. Ooh, that's not yellow ochre. Who else can't figure out their oil pastels? They're all like the same color now. Gross. A lot of jumping around. And I'll do another pass. This is so many layers, you guys. It's all about layering today. It's really what it is. And actually, I might put in a little bit of gray. Maybe like a light gray. I don't want anything that's too dramatic. Although, I don't know, maybe this green would be good. This is like a grayish green. Ooh, I kind of like this. That's sort of nice because that's bringing out some different colors in the hay, because it is like a dullish gray color. Like that. Yeah, this is very gray. So maybe I'll use the green here. And I do want to get it darker later on. I think value-wise is way too bright, but we'll get to that. And maybe a quick pass of brown down here, just to layer in with the white. Down here, I'm almost going to let it disappear. And then here in the lower left, there's a lot of brown. So actually the white fades out the more you get to the left. And actually here, I'm going to put in some black because there are these like pockets. Ooh, that was too dark. I don't like that. There are these like pockets of dark that do show way more detail. Because remember, this is the foreground. This is something you want it to look pretty sharp in terms of articulation. You're not going to want that in the back. In the back, you're going to want things to settle down. You're going to want them to blur. But here, I'm going to go in and pull that out. Ruan is asking, have you ever done a mixed media painting between oil pastels and watercolor? I have not, although I think that would work out pretty well. I mean, if you started with watercolor and then put oil pastel on top, it could work. For me personally, oil pastel is so powerful that I guess my concern for myself is that the oil pastel would be really dominant. And I don't think I would like that because I guess with watercolor, it's such a delicate medium that for me, I would find them hard to balance. But I don't know. I mean, I've never actually done that before. So I'd have to actually try it to tell you what's going on. CJ says, I could bleat off. The path and the yellow ochre hay feel really similar tonally. Maybe brighten one or darken the other. I think that's the biggest difference from the thumbnail. Yeah, I'm getting there. It takes time. This takes so much more time than what's going on in the thumbnail. And it's building slowly. And there's a back and forth, I think, with drawing where you make it dark, you make it light. You make it dark, you make it light. I mean, that's a back and forth balance that you have to keep doing. And I think that's fine. Louise says, I appreciate how patient you are when building tone. I'm doing a portrait study with wax pastel crayons. I keep reminding myself to have patience. Eventually, it will come together. It's patience and it's a little bit of faith because I do think from working in the classroom with students, people do tend to give up too quickly. And I say, listen, just stick around. Give me another half an hour and let's just see where this can go. And your time is not wasted. Like a lot of people say, oh, I wasted all that time and I spent another hour and it still didn't go anywhere. I don't think that's true, you guys. I think even when things don't work out, you're still experiencing the drawing. You're still logging, as Jordan says, the pencil mileage. So never tell yourself that any amount of time you do is wasted. It is not wasted. It might feel like it's wasted, but it definitely, in my opinion, is not. Let me make this a little bit brighter. I think it got a little bit dark. It's a little bit too bright. Okay. And Ayane says, I mix the colors constantly when I'm doing pastels. I work with it more like paint, if that makes any sense. I feel like you work on it more like a drawing. Yeah, depending on the person, it can really change the way you use it. I mean, I know some people, like I have this friend who works with oil pastels and her drawings are crazy smooth, so smooth. I can't use pastels that way. That's just not my personality, but she's great at it. So don't think that because it's a particular media that, oh, it has to look like this. No, it doesn't. I mean, it's like whatever you want it to be. Katarina says, what is baby oil for? That is basically to smudge things, okay? So in theory, I could just smudge with my finger without baby oil. But the thing is, when you put the baby oil on, it's just easier. It smooths out faster. And you don't end up like rubbing your fingers raw, which is what a lot of people end up doing when they do a lot of rubbing. Corey says, looks beautiful already. Could you do a video on soft pastels? Coming up later this month. There's going to be 2 streams on oil pastels. And if you guys want to find out where that is, go down to the video description below and you will see we do have a link to our YouTube live stream schedule. So that way you guys will have an opportunity to see what's coming up. Rowan says, to me, oil pastels always look better at a distance. Getting fixed at details can make things way more mudgy. Or it's easy for things to get too smeary if you try to do too much. I just think that, here's my take on media, okay? It's sort of like having kids. You can't force it to be something it doesn't want to be, okay? Your kid wants to be an artist, you want them to be a doctor, that's not going to work out well. I know a lot of people that they're miserable. And so I feel like I do, to a certain degree, like the media to communicate to me what it does or does not want to do. And there are people who are like total dictators. Like my friend who does the oil pastel, she's a total dictator when it comes to oil pastels. But I'm not like that. I'm a little bit more fluid when it comes to that. So it's quite different. Gergana says, it would never have occurred to me to use blue instead of brown and gray for the road. I'm so bad at colors. Even if I think about complementaries, etc., it just doesn't occur to me. So what you need to do, Gergana, sorry, I don't know how to say your name. You need to do some wacko colors. Colors in your landscape that make your nose curl, that make you go, ew. You have to do that. Because if you don't, you're going to draw everything gray and brown, and it's going to get really boring really fast. So do it. Do that one drawing with hideous colors that you're like, yuck, I don't want to do it. I want to give a shout out to Solar Shine. Thank you so much for the super sticker. We greatly appreciate your support. As you guys know, we rely entirely on donations. So any amount you guys can provide helps us produce more content for you. And it's so meaningful to us to have your support. So if you can, we really, really appreciate that. Okay, let's get back here. I think I spent a little bit too much time. So also a lot of this is going back and forth and trying to work things. I think this is, I don't like how bright this is. So I think I'm going to go over it with a lot of purple. I'm just going to do a whole pass of purple because I think my idea with this area back here, I want it to be barely there. I want it to not be very clear. I do want to do a little baby oil because the path is visibly smoother than everything else back here. Yeah. I don't like this transition though. Let me go back to the hay and see what's going on. Maybe if I add just like a trickle of white, just to show that this is indeed in front, and we can let this smear out a little more. It's too bright. I still don't like how bright this is. Yeah, this really is purple. I know for you guys it looks blue, but it really is purple. Trust me, it really is. Yeah, I got to tone all this down. I think this is all too bright. So let me go back to the photo. And remember, I am thumbnail, reference photo, drawing, looking at the three at the exact same time. I'm going to go in with some more yellow ochre. Oh, you know what I should do? I really should bring these trees out a little bit more. I'm just going to give them a little pass. A few highlights. I'm not going to do much more than that. I'm going to make them pretty fragmented. And actually, I'm going to break this gray. And I want to do more different directions of strokes, because that's sort of what I like about this hay is as much as it looks like it's going up and down, there are a lot of spots like here where it bends downwards, and I want to capture that in the piece. So this is a lot of jumping around. And what I'm going to do is these marks, I'm going to make them too bright rather, and I'm going to smear them in. So they're there, but not too present. I do that a lot where I make things too bright on purpose, and I go back in and I smear them out. So you guys have heard me say in the past that when you have different layers, you plan for the next layer. You say, I do this, so that way I can do something else later on. This is brighter down here. So you know what? I'm going to get some white. And let's picture that maybe this section is in the same plane as what's going on here. So I'm going to let this hay be brighter and more pronounced like that. And I'm going to let it transition into what's happening down here. Okay, so this part right here is going to be really pronounced and bright, like that. Do some smearing. I got to work on this transition because I really want that to work out. I'm doing the light stuff right now. I think in a little bit I'm going to really go to town on some of these areas, but not yet. I'm not quite ready for that. I keep losing track of my white. Why do I keep doing that? Here it is. I think I have to put it in a special spot. Let's get to this edge. Yeah, I sort of like that transition. And then there's this brownish side. It's sort of on the edge of the path. And actually it gets pretty dark over here. So I'm pulling in some of the burnt sienna to get that transition from the hay into the path. And then back here, I really want to tone it down because this is really far away. So this is going to get really blurry back here because of that whole atmospheric perspective thing. And I'm going to take the black to tone down some of what's back here. The black is going over some of the yellow ochre so I can show the chaos. And this is all drawn with the side of the oil pastel. This is not the tip, guys. A lot of people draw with the tip, and the tip is not your friend. In a lot of cases, it's really not very helpful. A lot of the times, it just makes things a little bit too blunt. Okay. So that, I think, that starts to push that back in the distance, although I do think it needs another pass of black. Pushing all that. And you know something, guys? I'm not looking at the reference photo much. Right now, I'm glancing at it, but not that carefully. And you guys will find the more you work on the drawing, the less you're going to look at the photo. Don't be married to the photo. Remember, you have to have an adulterous relationship with your imagination, I suppose. And you know something? I'm not like that with other topics. When I'm doing still life, sometimes I really do feel glued to that surface, but not with landscape. I feel like with landscape, I can't do that. Let's get in. We need a little more in here. I don't really want red. I think that's a little bit too much. Maybe burnt sienna would be better. Because actually, I don't know if you guys can see, but there is this reddish plant that's hidden. There's not a lot of it, but I can see like a little pocket of it here. And actually, there's quite a bit in the trees. I feel like those were maybe these orange berries that I saw. I totally cannot remember, but some of this will highlight what's going on back here. That's a little bit better. I'm not liking this path though. I think it's this transition. I got to go back to the photo of the hay, this section here. I think it needs, oh, you know what it needs? This hay needs some articulation. I need to make it sharper looking. I feel like the lines look a little bit mushy right now. Maybe if I go in and start adding in some harsher sections, that will help. And I think I'm going to switch to a blue so I don't get too reliant on the black. I mean, this is really fun, guys. This is playtime, isn't it? Don't you feel like you're in a big sandbox right now? That's how I feel right now. It's great. Ooh, I don't like that blue. That looks terrible. Crap. All right, let's fix it. I think if I go back in with some yellow ochre, maybe that'll get rid of it. So remember, don't have the expectation that your drawing is going to be better, 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 better. It's not. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better. And that's okay. Here, I'm going to get very detailed. I'm going to put in like a really specific sections. Oh, and you know what's cool back here? Okay, so there are these lines that are pretty pronounced. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to smear them. So that way they head backwards. Ooh, that's really fun. Oh, I kind of like that. But now, oh no, that's purple. I keep picking like the wrong color. Because I really want to pump up this hay in the front. This hay in the front is awesome. It's great. Maybe I'll put in a little pass of like bright yellow to pump it up even more. I know it's not that color. And remember, this is actually, you guys really can't see the yellow. It's not very visible in the video, but you'll see it later when I put it into the Discord. And if you guys are in Discord, you're missing out. Those of you in the Discord, tell the people who are not in the Discord what they're missing out on. A lot of cool stuff. We have so much fun in there. Plus, people are nice. Like, there are a lot of places on the internet people are not nice. But Art Prof is a place where people are nice and supportive. And if they're not, we deal with it for sure. I'm going to have, I'm trying to figure out if I should make this like slope in. I'm not sure if that's a great idea, but let's just do a little bit and maybe I'll decide if I want to do that or not. Because I do want this to like transition into the foreground. I don't like this. The path is really bugging me, you guys. What is it? Maybe it needs to be wider at the bottom. Let me look at the photo again. I mean, I'm barely looking at the photo at this stage, but hang on, I draw my pastel. Sometimes, maybe it needs to be wider. Let me just pull it out a little bit, making this too bright. And let's just smear it. Maybe that will give it the direction. I don't know if I like that. I have no idea. I got to work on these bushes. I think the bushes are too mushy. They look like rice pudding or something. And actually, they have a lot of gray and green. So maybe like a dark, muted, olivey green is what I need. Let's just do like a quick pass. Just a couple little, because it's sort of like a mushy part and then there's like a straight part that comes down. Like that. And then maybe some black to show some of these pockets, get a little bit more contrast in there. Because the bushes are actually pretty structured. And actually, it would be good to get more contrast with the glow-in-the-dark hay. Yeah, because then that pops a little bit more. And then actually, it gets a little bit like bluish. Maybe I'll put like a little pass of bright blue on top of this. That might make it a little bit more fun. Ooh, that's kind of cool. I sort of like that blue. Ooh, that's kind of a nice transition. I need more here, though. I feel like I lost some of the marks. Maybe some more, like an orange color. Because again, I don't want this zone to compete with this zone. This zone is still the dominant one, the one that I want to really stick out. But I do want this one to have some articulation to it. And let's go in some baby oil in the background, just so that way the blue sinks in. And I might do, if I want to do black back there, just doing some squinting. Let me look at the photo of the hay again, the glow-in-the-dark hay. I need some black back here because I need mega articulation around the hay. So what I'm doing now is I'm drawing around the hay. I'm sharpening up some of those edges and maybe more down here. I think I need to get a little more severe with some of these little patches of black because again, this is like really articulate. Ooh, that's kind of satisfying. See, I don't like that I'm relying on black so much. I feel like I'm using too much black. I feel like Lauren would yell at me right now if she saw me using all this black. She'd be like, Clara, you're not engaging with the color or something like that. I want to bring this down. I think this is too pronounced. Maybe a little more baby oil. Push that back. No, but then I need to pull this forward. Maybe just a little texture going across. Maybe that's what I need. Just pulling that in that direction. W315 says the channel will be in after this is art alongs. Yep. So maybe you guys can help each other out. The invite link, it's in the video description below. If you guys want to hang out with us in the Discord. We have a question from Erin. What do you think about balance between detailed studies and sketches? I mean, should we spend more time on studies, takes long hours, or sketches like 30 minutes? It really depends on what you're trying to do. And it depends on your priorities. I mean, I would do what works for you. What works for me may not work for you. And that's why I really encourage people, don't just learn from one teacher, learn from many teachers, because then you can pick and choose what's going to work better. My feeling is that it's good to start with something like this. Like, see this one? This is the first sketch, and it's minimal. I did not do that much work. Now, this sketch has a lot more value range. You can see more of the detail. And now I have the drawing here. So it's up to you guys how you want to do it. I mean, it's sort of intuitive. Like once you've drawn enough and you sort of feel like, okay, this is what I need. A lot of this is trial and error, you guys. Do what you think might work. If it doesn't work, do something else. Like that's sort of how it is. I can give you guys all the advice in the world, but ultimately what it comes down to is your personal taste. So keep that under consideration. Okay. Karen A says, looks like autumn leaves to me. I feel like I missed out on autumn because if you live in New England, autumn is such a big thing. I mean, people like drive to New Hampshire to like look at the orange and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, we had some of that here, but it's not quite the same thing. So yeah, maybe I'm channeling my desire. I don't like this transition. And you know something? It's like this is where the two photos merge. I got to work on this. And I think what I got to do is work the hay in the front and make it visibly in front of the path. Maybe that will do it for me. I'm not sure. Let's just give it a shot. See, I'm at the point now where you're just not drawing a lot. You're just spending a lot of time looking, a lot of time. It's my drawing face. I know I have a drawing face. I don't know if you guys have seen my China tutorial where me and Eloise and Casey and Lauren, we traveled to Guangzhou together. That whole tutorial is my drawing face. And I look very grouchy, but I'm not. I'm just looking. I'm just looking really carefully. Maybe it's in here. Maybe I put too much. Maybe this contrast needs to, you know what? Let's get out the Senneliers. Because maybe, oh, yeah. That's the stuff. Oh my God, where have you been my whole life? Okay. Oh, that is great. Sennelier, see, I knew you're good in small doses, just not big dramatic ones. Oh, that does feel nice. Okay, that's what I needed. I needed that little boost of highlight like that. Oh, geez, it's so mushy. Okay, look at this. I look like I have paste on my fingers. It looks like makeup or something. And I want to sharpen up some of these edges. Like I want this hay to like pop, really, really pop. And so you can see now these are sharper edges. I want to bring some of this down. I feel like this is coming out too much compared to this. Remember, everything's relative. It's not that this part doesn't look good. It's that this doesn't look good in relation to that, in my opinion. It's totally subjective what people think. And actually, I'm just going to do a whole pass. You see this just really light pass of brown over this whole section. Okay, and then that really brought down what was happening with the white. I might do more of that actually. And let's just press in more of that brown, maybe another pass of the black to divide that up some more. Yeah, that does feel better. Maybe a little bit more Sennelier down here. Oh, and you know, the Sennelier is probably good for this. These like little tracks of stuff down at the bottom. I kind of like that. Okay, Sennelier, you're good in small amounts. Sort of like star anise. Anybody ever make something with star anise before? Star anise, it's like, if you have a little bit, it tastes wonderful. But if you have too much, it's like, ugh, it's just like plastic. It does not taste good. So these two trees in the background that I was thinking were going to be prominent actually did not really end up doing very much. That's interesting. I want to give a shout out to Tom G for the super chat who's saying fun session. I love the positive energy, everyone. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your support. Orange Cat says, I don't know, but I feel like the path should be in front of the hay. It could be, but I do like the intersection. I mean, that's a taste thing. That just depends on who you are. One choice is not better than the other. It's like apples and oranges. It's like, it's not really that dramatically important. I mean, it's like when you get to this stage, can't find my burnt sienna. When you get to a certain point in visual art, like especially Lauren and I, we did a stream on MFA interviews recently. At a certain point, there's no good and bad. It's just subjective. And that really is what the master's level is like. There's no consensus on this is good, this is bad. You don't have that. It's just not part of the equation. Whereas I do think in undergrad, it does sometimes feel more like that people have an idea of this is good, this is bad, but it doesn't really work that way. At least at the master's level, you don't really have that. I'm going to just do a pass of black. I know you can't see it because it's black paper, but you will see it when I take a photo. I got to work on these bushes. I feel like the bushes don't have enough articulation. Although I wonder if I'm just getting picky, which is not good. That probably means I need to do less. I'm just going to do a sprinkling of this green on top. That might separate it some more. I want to do maybe another pass of black. I'm getting close. Does everybody see how right now I'm not making a lot of changes? It's a little bit here, a little bit there, but like the big stuff where I'm doing like sweep, that's sort of done at this point. So that's how I know I'm getting close to finishing. I don't think I'm there yet. I want a little bit more articulation down here at the bottom. So I feel like I sort of lost. Oh yeah, that's better. I lost some of the structure in here and I need to put it back. Maybe up here? A little bit. I don't want to do too much because this is very much like in the background and it can get in the way really fast. A lot of looking. Raphael says, thank you for posting my self-portrait on the Art Prof family Instagram. Yeah, you guys, if you didn't know, we have an Instagram. It's called Art Prof Family. I'll put the handle in the chat. And you guys can send us your self-portrait and we'll post it. It's fun. You can see the whole community. And if you have Art Prof staff fan art, some of you guys have been painting some really cool portraits of us. We will post those as well. And you can have several posts. Like, it's not like you can only post once. Like, if you have a second self-portrait, if you do later fan art, it's just really, really fun to see all the different people who are on here. Sarah is asking, will this be available later? Absolutely. So every single stream that we do does get posted later. You usually have to wait like a half an hour after the stream ends. But once it ends, you definitely can replay it later. And there's so many people who are going back and doing the older streams. So if you guys go back and you watch an old stream and you draw along with it, you can tag us on Instagram and use hashtag ArtProfShare, and you can put it in the Discord. That's also a really fun thing to do. Ruan says, as a self-taught artist, Art Prof helps me so much. I'm always recommending you guys to everyone. Thank you so much, Ruan, because you know what? Guys, I want to take over the world. I want like Art Prof empire. I don't know if it's going to happen, but whatever. I mean, I would prefer, actually, to be honest, smaller audience that's more dedicated. I don't really want to have 2 million subs if they're not really that into us. I feel that it's better to have a stronger community that's smaller, that's a lot more tight-knit. That's more important to me. Even though, like, yeah, the numbers are exciting and everybody freaks out about numbers and, oh, they have 5 million subs. It's like, ultimately, the quality of the experience is much better. And something really does change when you get bigger in that you just can't have that level of engagement. I don't know what's going to happen if we get to that point. We'll have to see. We're not there yet. But I hope that our budget increases so we can hire more people to do some of the behind the scenes stuff, because, oh my God, my life is emails and spread lists. And I'd much rather be writing curriculums and producing content and editing videos. I'd much, much rather do some of that. But right now I can't. We just don't have the budget for that. CJ says, what if some of the lightish blue at the front of the path was repeated in the lower left-hand corner just to bring it around? Not sure. I think I'm at the point right now where I've been looking at it for too long, and I think I need to step away. So I'm sort of at that point. You guys ever get to that point where it all looks the same? Like, you think you're all, but you actually are not helping very much. And I feel that if I work on it more at this point, I'm going to lose the freshness and spontaneity that I had earlier. And so I would say I would need to step back, not look at it for a week, and then come back to it. we're not going to do a second stream on this drawing, but I am at that point where I just can't see straight anymore. And so I have to step away and look at something else. Karen says, high numbers would give you a lot of credit with your children, though. Yeah, but they want 10. They're like, if you get 10 million subs, then we'll be impressed. I'm like, oh, okay. 85,000 is not good enough for you, apparently. Join me, you guys, in the Art Prof Discord. I will be in the Art Alongs channel and post your stuff. The invite link is in the video description below. Subscribe to the Art Prof YouTube channel so you can continue to grow as an artist. And I want to say thank you so much to our top Patreon supporters. You guys help us out so much to make sure that we can always keep Art Prof 100% free and available to everybody. And thank you so much, you guys, for all of the commentary and for all of your opinions and thoughts. You guys enrich the conversation so much with your thoughts. Thank you so much. We'll see you.